2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the News Literacy Project, Newslet's Nations, professional development for middle and high school librarians and teachers. My name is Casey Boyd. I'm so excited to be here today to share with you some of the wonderful things that I've experienced in using the Newslet Project and all of their resources. Joining me today is Ebony Rice, and she is the Newslet Project's Vice President of Education Network, and Shaylin Farnsworth. She's also the Newslet Project's National Director of Educator Outreach and Success. So hello, ladies, and welcome.
Hi, Casey. This is so exciting. We're really excited to be here and to present specifically to those of you in the DC area, middle and high school librarians. We are thrilled to be representing the News Literacy Project and talk about all of our free resources and offerings. And I'm even more honored to be here with my colleague, Shaylin Farnsworth.
Aw, thank you so much. And it is a joy to be here, not only with you, Ebony, but also Casey, who I've known for quite a while. We connected on the Twitterverse, and yes, we will share that later. All three of us are active on Twitter, so reach out. But I'm thrilled to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to the learning.
That's right, because I will tell you, this has been my first year working with the Newslet Project, and it has been really a very interesting year, and it's been and the resources through the program have been extremely helpful. And I'm going to share with you towards the end of this presentation my top 3 lessons that I use with my students. But let me give you a little background information about me. This is my 23rd year teaching. I've always worked in the school libraries. This is my 3rd school district I've worked in. I've always worked in K through 12 library programming, but I have had 2 experiences working at the district level as like a district librarian, or in one district it was also called a lead librarian. I've seen a lot of different resources that have passed across my desk. Some were really good, some were and some were not very good. And the reason, one of the reasons why I harp on the News Literacy Project's programming and offerings is that it's so user-friendly, and you can really customize it based off of the curriculum of your school or either your district. In my case, I work at a school that really encourages a lot of creativity, as well as we have a very strict curriculum that we have to follow. I currently work for the District of Columbia Public Schools and work at Jefferson Academy, which is a public school, and it's located in Southwest DC. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I have a brand new remodeled library program. The physical space is absolutely beautiful. I have a lot of digital technology space, everything for the kids. But now I have a stronger program that I could push out into my entire school community, because I have that opportunity through the leadership of my principal, who gives me a lot of leeway and the opportunity to be creative. And that is really the key, is that when you have that freedom to really introduce new resources and concepts, it really does make a difference in implementing programs like this. But at the end of the day, the wonderful thing about the News Literacy Project is that you can easily integrate it into any program, any curriculum, also most importantly into discussions. And because over this past year, I was charged with teaching a middle school media studies class for 7th graders, this program really made the difference in a lot of our hot button topics that were discussed during class. So I don't want to talk too much. What I want you all to see is all the bells and whistles, which Ebony and Shaylin are going to really talk about during this presentation. And at the end, like I said, I'm going to talk about the 3 lessons that I enjoyed using. So I'm going to hand it over to Ebony and Shaylin.
Thank you, Casey, so much. I think Ebony's going to start off.
Yes.
That's a broad overview, a little bit about NLP if you are new, if the News Literacy Project is new to you. And then we're going to drill down, and as Casey said, she's going to share her 3 favorite lessons. But Ebony, this is all you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much. So a little bit of background before I get into kind of my work at NLP and what I'm working on for educators. So the News Literacy Project is a nonpartisan national education nonprofit, and we really focus on helping educators teach students how to think, and of course, not what to think. So that looks like news literacy, forgive me, you all, my puppy is being crazy. That really centers on supporting educators with resources and tools for classroom instruction, so that they can then, that translates to actionable outcomes for students in the classroom. So I want to share one of our resources with you all. She may have to make an appearance in this video. I'm going to put her in my lap, but I want to share one of our resources with you all. So Newslit Nation is our educator community, and I'm so proud of it and excited about this community that we just launched in February. So Newslit Nation is our professional learning community, and the idea behind it is to connect educators to supports, resources, and actual community where you can talk to one another, share best practices, and come together and advocate for news literacy education in your schools and your districts. And this idea came because we realized that educators really felt like they were advocating for news literacy education in silos. Sometimes you're the only one in your school, the only librarian in your district who's teaching it, who's interested in finding new tools and resources to support educators. And so we wanted you to know that you are not alone. There's an entire network that you can plug into of thousands of educators who also understand the importance of news literacy education. And not only that, but we wanted to help empower educators with all of the resources and tools that you need to be successful in supporting news literacy educations in your schools, in your communities, and in your districts. So that was the idea behind Newslit Nation. And I'm going to just, Stacy, did you have a question? Oh, okay. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to show you all Newslit Nation Online, which is the online component for Newslit Nation, and let you all get an idea of the platform. Okay, so here is a look at my screen. This is the newslit.org homepage. So once you get to newslit.org, you just want to click on the For Educators tab. And once you do that, you will be entered into Newslit Nation. And I am actually already signed in, but if you don't have an account, then you would just go right over here to register, and then you will register for an account. It's very easy. It takes a few seconds to register, and then you'd sign into your account. And if you do have an account, of course, you would go ahead and sign in. And the first thing that you would notice is that there is a Newslit Nation forum. And the forum is where educators can ask questions, where you can find out in real time. You can kind of find out some of the things, maybe some of the burning things that you've been trying to understand, some of the issues that you've been having. To give you an idea of some of the forum posts, you can post a question in here and get real-time responses from someone from NLP or other educators who are in the field. And the idea here is we really wanted to connect educators with other people who are doing the work, because we realize that as educators, you are on the front line in the fight against misinformation. You are in the classrooms every day. You actually know some of the best practices and some of the things that we really push for. So you are advocates, and you are well equipped to respond to some of these questions. So as you can see, there's tons here. There's tons of engagement. And so that's the forum. And then if we go back to the homepage, you'll also know that there's an announcement section, which is announcing our new lesson on Checkology, which is conspiratorial thinking. And Shaylin's going to talk to us a little bit more about Checkology in just a moment. And then you'll see our Newslit Nation ambassadors, which Casey is our DC ambassador, which we're so honored and proud to have her a part of this program. And our ambassadors are really, the idea behind this program is to build a local footprint in communities across the country. So they are our advocates on the ground. They help inform our national program and how we roll out news literacy education. And so we train, we support, and equip these folks in different places across the country. We have 13 ambassadors in 10 cities across the country to be well equipped to advocate for news literacy education in their schools. So that's our ambassador program. And then if you continue along with me throughout the page, you will notice that this is our event section. We have a Newslit camp happening this Friday. We have an essay contest happening in Miami. And then we have another National Newslet Camp happening on June 3rd. You can register for all of these events directly in the page once you register and sign into your account. And then of course the SIFT, which is our weekly educator newsletter. And the SIFT is a really incredible resource because it has classroom ready slides. It breaks down a viral rumor from the previous week. So it allows you for content to teach in your classroom to help reach your learning outcomes in real time. These are things that your students are seeing on their timelines. It's things that they're hearing about at their dinner tables, maybe with their family, and things that they're talking about on their schoolyards. Well, not so much probably in their schoolyards now, but it's things that they are aware of that are happening in real time. And then finally, our educator tool section. So you'll notice that tools are separated in for a classroom and for educators. For classroom tools, these are things that you can use actually in the classroom. Our Checkology virtual classroom, which again, Shaylin will talk about in a minute, and so will Casey. Our resource library, the SIFT newsletter, which I mentioned a moment ago, and our Newsroom to Classroom program, which connects educators with journalists who will visit their classrooms virtually or in person if you were doing an in-person model right now. So these are journalists who can talk about how they find news sources, how they remain objective, how the news works, so they can really give students an insight into news media. And we have found that experience to be incredibly enriching and impactful for students. And then in our For Educator section, we have all of our professional development. These are our Newslet camps, our events, anything for educators to attend is here. Our Newslet camps, as I mentioned earlier, we have one this Friday for South Carolina educators, and then another on June 3rd, specific for all educators. It's a nationwide Newslet camp. And then we have an app. We have a free app called Informable. And this is a mobile app that allows everyone to practice their news literacy skills. It's through games, actions, and activities. So it's really fun. It's something that you can share with your families and friends. It's general public facing. So it's not necessarily a classroom tool, but something that is a really fun way to teach news literacy skills. And then finally, we have our podcast, which is a news literacy podcast called Is That a Fact? Where our host, one of my colleagues, Dara, she interviews experts in the field who are talking about misinformation, disinformation, and how news literacy issues affect our lives each and every day. So these conversations are really wonderful. If you haven't downloaded that, I encourage you to do so. So really what you'll see here is a one-page, kind of one-stop shop for all things Newslit community. And we're really excited about this community. We have thousands of educators who are connected all across the country. And so I urge you to register if you have not already. And if you are registered, to check back regularly for incentives, for exclusive events, and to connect with others who are in the field doing what you're doing, which is advocating for news literacy education or desiring to learn more about news literacy education. And so I'm honored to share that with you. And then at this time, I'm going to toss it back over to my colleague, Shaylin. And I welcome any questions that you have in the chat regarding Newslet Nation or the News Literacy Project in general.
Thank you so much, Ebony. I'm just gonna get set up here for just a moment here. I realized that when I set up dual monitors, Casey, I don't know if you have dual monitors going at your desk in your at-home workspace, but I do, and sometimes I forget to separate them, so that's what I'm doing right now. But I'm thrilled to be here, not only with Casey, but also my colleague Ebony, sharing, digging into Checkology. And Checkology is our free platform-based flagship program, and what it contains is 13, well, actually more now, 14 lessons that you can use in your classroom. No special software to download. Any up-to-date browser works on any device. And these 14 lessons now help you instill skills and habits of minds with your students. So for instance, how to discern fact from fiction, qualities of journalism, the First Amendment, and it's gauged for middle school through high school students. As Casey said, she has seventh grade class. It's used actually even, we have some college students using it, and Georgia has lots of college students using it at Georgia State. So we're thrilled to share this with you. This is what the landing page looks like. And when you go to register now, it will take you to 3 different options. As Ebony spoke at the beginning, NLP not only supports free resources for educators, but now we're starting to expand this to public as well. You want to sign up for the Educator View. This will allow you to create courses and add classes and give the information to your students. So definitely the Educator one. Students will receive a link, so they don't even need to come here. But we do have one for the public. And I know this is something Casey and I talked about at the beginning when I was explaining to her what Checkology was. They contain similar lessons to what students use on Checkology, and she thought that her families would really appreciate something like that. Casey, did you want to add more to that public Checkology view?
Yeah, working in Washington, D.C., we're at the bedrock of politics in this country. So it's very difficult for kids to avoid the talk of politics, because that's oftentimes in this area, the DMV area, it's discussed at the dinner table. So that's where News Literacy Project really comes into play, with helping with those type of conversations.
That's great. So that is something that you can definitely check out. And the new lesson conspiratorial thinking is on both the educator platform for students, but also the public platform. Once you create a course and a class, you are brought to a dashboard. And think of a dashboard just like any other platform LMS that you use. You can create classes. It takes you just a few minutes to set up a class. Share the link on your LMS so your students can join seamlessly, and you're off to the races. The content that I was telling you about is located right underneath the content tab, and it contains 14 lessons. People often get confused because we do have 15. One is translated into Spanish, so there's 15 on there, but it's a duplicate. But the lessons parallel each other. What you'll have are these elements at the bottom, and it's very multimodal, short videos, lots of formative assessment with real world examples on platforms that they would use and see in their daily lives. So we're going to check out one of the most popular ones, InfoZones by Tracy Potts. And Tracy Potts shares how to zone information when students encounter it online.
When I was starting out in journalism, we didn't have nearly as much information available to us. There was no internet, no email, no texting, no social media, not even YouTube. We got all our information from textbooks, books we bought or checked out from the library, magazines and newspapers we bought or subscribed to, TV shows we watched on just a handful of channels, and films we actually had to go to the movie theater to see. With no access to the internet, we also couldn't share information with a large group of people at one time. What that meant is that only professionals could share information for the public. They acted as gatekeepers, determining what to share with the public and what not to share. But now, anyone can share information, which means that more voices have been added to the mix, including yours and your classmates. It also means that you can't trust everything you read because, well, anyone, anywhere can post and share whatever they want, whenever they want.
So each lesson has a subject matter expert, someone from the field, in this case, Tracy Potts, who has short video chunks scattered throughout the lesson in which they teach something specific. So in this case, it's zoning information or conspiratorial thinking or First Amendment. They're all set up very, very similar in fashion. From there, students will not only learn, but then they will apply their learning in multiple formative assessments scattered throughout. So in this example, here are different posts and articles students may come in contact with, a short video, because we all know it's the TikTok generation, and students drag and drop, trying to apply what they've just learned. Now, the great thing about the formative assessment on Checkology is it gives immediate feedback and allow students to retake it as many times as the teacher allows. So it's kind of up to you. So along with our lessons, we actually do have quite a bit more information underneath the content section on Checkology. We have exercises and challenges. Those help extend those learning targets, but in a shorter, think of it almost like mini lesson rather than an elongated lesson. So the practice and extend, I'll drive home those learning objectives from the lessons, and they fit in nicely when you're creating a whole course. From there, we do have fact check missions and challenges. The newest one that has been updated, this great one that I know librarians love, evaluating sources online. So it actually teaches kids how to evaluate sources that they find online, giving them tips and techniques, skills that you'll need. Here's some instructions, not as long as the lessons, more step by step, and really razor thin focus on that learning objectives. One more thing, or two more things I want to point out before I hand this over to Casey. First is the Check Center, another favorite, not only with librarians, but also ELA teachers and social studies teachers. The Check Center helps develop those habit of minds for students to discern fact from fiction, from what they read online and view online and see online. We have the quick check, and this helps walk through different questions a student may have once they've encountered something from text, a picture, a video, walks them through all of those questions they need to ask themselves and helps them identify if it is really something that you can share, something you would trust, or if you should pass on it. Along with the quick check, the Check Center has one of my favorite areas called the toolbox. Now, it not only has tips that you can show and support students' online learning, but also skills. And I love this area. Here's how to do a reverse image search, lateral reading. And this has NLP colleagues of ours sharing a short video of how to actually do that skill and what it's used for. So definitely check that out. Finally, as Ebony mentioned towards the beginning of the hour, we do have this journalist tab, and this is where you will find all of the participants for the newsroom to classroom. Invited journalists to come to your classroom and speak with your students. So you can not only filter by zip code, but many of these journalists have agreed to virtually visit classrooms. So don't be afraid to ask for that option, but you can also filter by expertise and language. It is fantastic. Tracy Potts is even listed in there. She is a great one. She is a young high school student and I think a middle school student as well. And then you connect offline describing what sort of learning objectives, and the journalists virtually visit your classroom and share with their students not only their job, but hit those objectives that were set forth. We've heard nothing but rave reviews this year, and the kids seem to love it. So I know, Casey, you have used Checkology and its lessons, and you said there are definitely 3 that stand out as favorites with you and your kids. So I'm going to hand it over to you. I'd love to hear, what are the top 3?
Okay, I lied. I'm going to talk about 4 because I do want to talk about the SIFT a little bit, and how beneficial the SIFT has been for me throughout the year. And I hope you can see my screen right now. Okay, great. Okay, so one of the things that's an expectation at my school is we have to use Nearpod. And Nearpod is a presentation tool that works with Microsoft Teams very well. In keeping that in mind, what I like about Checkology is that you can really sync both systems together very well to meet the school goals. So in my case, the school invested in Nearpod. They expect us to use it. I'm able to bring my slides right into Nearpod from Checkology and use it. So here's one on misinformation. And the reason why I taught this lesson heavily is that we were coming into the month of December, and there was a lot of talk about early vaccine distribution. And a lot of my students were very skeptical. And when I really looked at the root of it, a lot of it was a lot of fear, and it was coming really from parents, I'm not going to get it. People are passing out. All sorts of different theories were taking place amongst the kids. So I taught this lesson and I'll just flick through it. And it's dealing with misinformation. And as you can see, I inserted Dr. Fauci and oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank. Dr. I just Kizmia, I think is her name. The thing is that she was the physician that created the vaccine that's being heavily used, I think, through Moderna. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank because I haven't taught the lesson in months. So this is a lesson from November. But the thing is that having this discussion and talking about how important it is to deal with misinformation that you read online. Our students are bombarded with so much information that deals with fake news, as we can see here, as well as I always want their opinion in terms of how they feel about certain issues that they're taught in class. In this case, I want to know how much do you think you're affected by the spread of misinformation? And you know, I have middle schoolers, so they're extremely opinionated, so they have something to say, and this always generates great conversations. You know, so the slides that you're seeing, they are coming from Checkology, and it makes a lot of sense in terms of using it and applying it to what the kids are experiencing, you know, in real time. Now, the interesting thing is we had the insurrection that took place in January. There was a lot of misinformation that was spread, and because my school is located blocks away from the Capitol, there were a lot of conspiratorial theories and everything. So we also talked about two facts and a feeling. You know, and this was kind of after the insurrection and things that kind of calmed down. We talked about the importance of fact-based and opinion-based statements that are oftentimes presented in news. And our kids are on social media. You know, even though there's I think a cutoff point of 13 years old to get on Instagram, you know, these kids are on all these sites anyway. They don't care, and you know, that's their thing. But oftentimes what starts class is that it's just a free open discussion, which I really encourage. And the kids are talking about a variety of different things that they're bombarded with in the news. And I always remind them, let's go back to some of our lessons that we talked about. You know, think about this lesson. We talked about two facts and a feeling, you know, and how you are in the driver's seat to properly analyze material that's presented to you. Look at where you're getting this information from. Is it reliable? And, you know, for a young person, this is difficult for them to navigate. This is my third one I liked, was the conspiracy theory lesson. And they really liked this because especially it tied in again with what was taking place with vaccine distribution. And oh goodness, this was really an interesting discussion, as well as it went on for weeks, because the kids had their own theories about not only vaccine distribution, but theories in terms of whether or not the classrooms would be safe if we return to in-person learning, because right now we're still virtual in my district. And you know, do the filters really work? You know, and for classrooms, and it was all sorts of things that popped up in their minds, and also through conversations, but giving them this firm understanding of this is how you branch off in your thinking, that this is how you analyze, you know, in terms of materials that's presented to you. And so what I always do is that anything I present, especially Nearpod, as you can see in the previous slide, I always slide in the Checkology page where I got it from, because I am a librarian and I want the kids to know this is where I got this information from. I'm not pulling it from the sky, guys. I'm actually pulling it from factual information for you to use. And, you know, just breaking down how we confirm our beliefs, simple answers, you know, false evidence and pseudo experts. These are things that kids kind of have trouble with disseminating, you know. And as you can see, I was able to load the same video in, you know, easily done. And it's through Nearpod. So that was my third lesson. Here's my last one. The SIFT has been very helpful to me because it lands in my inbox for work on time every Monday. And I appreciate this because my class is taught on Tuesday and Fridays. So that's right on time for me, right? Okay, so when the Derek Chauvin trial was taking place, I remember the results from that trial. The verdict came down, I think, on a Wednesday. And so I knew that there was going to be a lot of misinformation what was going to be, disseminated. So I went back to an older lesson that I had taught, and I wanted to talk about the 5 journalism principles, to remind the students that, look at this with a critical eye, information that's going to be presented to you. And so I reminded them, here are some great sources for news. And I have to also say this, we talked about CNN and other news carriers that reporters that will come into the classroom. What I appreciated from News Literacy Project is that I got to, as an educator, attend a wonderful professional development session with Don Lemon. And I'm like, was totally excited about this because, he's from Louisiana too, as well as my family. And the other thing is that he was so encouraging about, you have to stop it and you have to take news in a different direction and be fair and honest. And that's a principle that I'm sticking with as well with teaching this course, is that, provide that honesty to the kids, because, we start reshaping it, based off of our personal beliefs, we get in a lot of trouble. So again, this is example, I'm sorry that this is a little blurry, but this is part of that 5 journalism lesson that I taught: factualism, giving voice to the less powerful, oversight, transparency, and social criticism, and just talking about how this impacts how you are going to analyze material. And I even just get feedback from the kids, as you can see here, which news source do you feel most comfortable using? And according to the kids, they like another system is Newslia, then second one was CNN. So they're all over the place. But what happens is, which is great, is that they have this resource as a jump start for discussion. And I can never I could never say this is not a strong enough resource. It's a very strong resource, and it only gets better and better because material is continuously added, because it reflects what's taking place in our society today. And that's what I appreciate, is that the SIF, it changes, it's updated every week. Oh, wait, last one. If I could share my screen one more time. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm gonna see if I can find this one real fast, because I posted it today, and it was based off of something that kids see all the time. Mm-hmm. And this was in the SIFT actually this past Monday. And I thought this was really good because I have a bunch of athletes, young men that are basketball players in my media studies class. So I knew this was going to get their attention, because I was talking about LeBron James, King James. Okay. And revisiting this old story where he was talking about, issues that he was, his opinion about dealing with white people. And it was totally taken out of context, and showing kids that when certain issues come up in people, especially if they're politicians or media people or athletes, if they say certain things, people will go back, find things on old timelines, and they will pull this mess back up. And that's what I wanted them to see, is that how a simple statement he made, it was taken out of context and it was not 100% true, And so discussions around these types of media stories is extremely rich. And like I said, sometimes I haven't even started class. Kids will come online and they're like, Miss Boyd, did you see so-and-so, so-and-so? Or, and they're very savvy now, I think, as a result of this. So yes, this was a technology-based class. It turned more into, for me and the students, an opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in society and what they're reading and how to analyze it properly. And that's why I'm forever indebted to the program, because it really has helped me out a lot.
So two things. Isn't it wonderful? And I know that you are very tech savvy, and that's kind of some of your background. Isn't it wonderful when technology fades into the background and it just becomes, you put the learning first and the advocacy, and when you're speaking it and talking about the excitement in your students, it makes me think of students as citizen watchdogs. Were you going to say that, Ebony? Citizens as student watchdogs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they are
Yeah.
there, and we want them to grow to be. I mean, we always say that they are living in the most complicated digital ecosystem that we've ever had.
Yes.
And so if we don't teach them these sensibilities, then we are not preparing them to be civically engaged, to understand issues. We're not preparing them to think critically about things that they see. I love that Tracy Potts video that Shaylin showed earlier, because it really sees how in a short amount of time, how media has really changed. And NLP really focuses on news media specifically, but a lot of times, young people don't know the difference. A lot of adults don't know the difference. So media is all the same. So if your favorite athlete says something, if your favorite influencer or celebrity says something, it's all under the umbrella of news, and it isn't. Because news, one thing we teach is that news has, and this is a part of the lesson that Casey showed, news has principles that they follow. There are rules to news. There are no rules to blogging. I mean, there may be some, but literally you can just write anything and post it. But there are rules to objectivity in news. There's rules that journalists have to follow. And so when we teach young people those rules, and when we teach learners those rules, then they understand oh, what I'm looking at is a meme. Like the LeBron James piece, and meme isn't new. A quote isn't news. So if I'm seeing a quote, I should look at the whole video, or I should read the entire speech, or see the whole interview, or whatever, because this quote is not a piece of news. So I cannot attribute meaning to one sentence that I see on a picture of somebody, even if I admire that person, from a trusted source. That's not a piece of news information. So helping them to vet sources and understand sources. And we see this all the way up to the collegiate level, where students are more equipped to do research, to understand the writing process, have critical thinking skills. I mean, there is endless, not just benefits, but real world impact to students being able to participate in our democracy when they understand how to discern fact from fiction online. And
Right.
I don't know of something more critical to be teaching, in addition to everything else that they're learning right now.
That's right. That's right. And I want to clarify something, because I had a brain freeze earlier. Dr. Kismikia Corbett, I am so sorry, because she is really phenomenal, because she did create that Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. So just a correction there.
Yes.
There was another lesson that was really impactful that the kids really did pay close attention to, was the lesson on algorithms.
Yes.
Because they had never heard of the term, and they didn't understand how algorithms really do impact your presence online and how people can track you. Because the kids are like, really? That could happen? And I want to be very honest with you. My kids are not perfect. I'm just going to spill the tea on my students. They are mischievous. They're typical 7th graders. They all have their cameras off. Okay. But they show up every week, every Tuesday and Friday for class. Now I'll give them that. They don't turn those cameras on. You don't hear any background noise. They're always in a great area where they can talk if they have to unmute. And they are very much so informed whether they come off mute, or either they come into the chat, and they're very, very opinionated. So they participate heavily. Every now and then I might hear Fortnite playing on the side, and I have to say, excuse me, turn it off. But it's very rare, because I hear them they're like grumbling when they hear certain things that we're discussing. They don't exactly, agree with it. But then in a while, after a couple of sessions, they're like, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking maybe you are kind of right when you were talking about we need to consider this angle or that angle. But it's all based off of what they've experienced through using the material provided by Newslit Project. So Yeah, so it's a good thing. It's a real good thing. And when the last thing is that I'm really proud of this is that we have community meetings at my school every week, and my principal will sometimes insert current events or things that are going on and socially and around the DMV area. And I'm just sitting there listening, and again, we're virtual. And then I hear one of my students is called on and gives a very informed response or contributes to the overall conversation of 300 kids online. And I'm like, I feel really proud. I'm like, that's one of my students. So yeah, this is a really good thing. And it's free. That's the best thing. It's free.
It's completely free. And you've just given us a whole highlight reel. I know you said
I know.
and then 4, but I mean, you listed the standards of quality journalism lesson. You did zoning information with misinformation. You just did algorithms, which is perfect if you pair with conspiratorial thinking.
I was,
Kids
yeah.
right? Were you thinking that, Ebony? That
Those
they go down
two,
a rabbit hole?
yeah, those two are great because conspiracy theories are such a hot, that term is like so hot right now. But what I love about the lesson is it really goes into like the types of conspiracy theories, and like there's a whole history. Like conspiratorial thinking isn't new, and if you find yourself, thinking of or believing a conspiracy, then like there are a whole lot of things that happen before you just started to believe something. And I like that it encourages students, like it kind of activates your mind in that way, and anyone can believe anything that they want to believe. But when you have all of the tools, when you have the information, the resources to look for things yourself, then that's all we have. No one can ask any more of you than that students have the sensibilities. And I think that's what democracy is built on, and teaching them that is such a powerful tool. I loved Casey, what you said. I love your presentations. I love how you incorporate Checkology and the lessons into your existing lesson plans. And I just think that that's brilliant and so helpful for people to see that there's so many ways that you can integrate Checkology into your lessons. So many ways. There isn't, one way. You can just do Checkology and that can be an entire lesson, or you can kind of integrate different parts of it into things that you're already talking about. There's really, again, there's no right way. And I think the more educators can kind of think about all of the creative ways to talk about mis and disinformation and to talk about news literacy in general with their students, then fantastic. So we just wanted to provide you with the tools and resources, and then like you kind of take them from there and use them how you best see fit, knowing the context that you teach in and live in. And LeBron James to me was like hit home when you were talking about your students, because you're right. They all probably, or at least a lot of them, saw that meme on social media. Why wouldn't they believe it? They love basketball. They love LeBron James. Like there's the easy one.
We purposely analyzed that image very carefully. And the kids are like, if LeBron James is a baller, as we all know, would he really be in that type of environment? His place would be even more tricked out than that, Miss Boyd. He's superimposed in that image. I'm like, these kids are too much.
They are too much.
Yeah. And then one young lady said, excuse me, but yeah, he would be superimposed because he's trying to protect his family and his wife. He wouldn't show people exactly what his house looks like. So she said, I don't think that that's even a real picture. That's something that was created. I'm like,
wow,
these kids are something else. But I think that they're ready for 8th grade. And I'm happy that they will be ready for our 8th grade social science teacher, who was really dynamic. And he really talks about these topics. He infuses them into his program. So I think that they are totally ready for his class next year. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Well, with that, we just want to thank you all for attending this professional learning. We hope that you found it useful. On behalf of NLP, Casey, I want to thank you for all that you've done for the Ambassador Program, for news literacy education, the ways in which you advocate day in and day out for for your seventh graders, for all of the children in your district and in your community. It does not go unnoticed, and it just shows in the ways that which you presented even the information today. So we wanted to thank you. And for those of you watching, please feel free to connect with any of us, including Casey online. She always shares wonderful resources and bits of information always. Like, she's one of my favorite people to follow, to keep you kind of connected to what's happening in the librarians world. And so Casey, if you would just give everyone your Twitter, I'll give you mine. It's at Ebony Speaks, EBONEE, the word speaks. And then Casey, would you share your Twitter? And then Shaylin, would you share yours as well?
Sure. I'm best, you could best catch up with me on Twitter at boss_librarian. And I just put it into the chat. So you can see a lot of my posts there. I'm also on Instagram heavily at the same address. So if you wanted to follow me on Instagram, because some people prefer Instagram over, Instagram over Twitter, and that's cool too. So I'll put my handle there as well. I'll just pre-warn you, if I can't tell if you're an educator, I generally don't approve people to follow me on Instagram for this main reason, because I have students and families that follow me, and I don't want people coming online bothering them, so I want that nice free space for them. So I share as much as I do on Twitter, on IG too.
Awesome. And everyone loves getting a glimpse into your classroom and the amazing things that you're doing with your students. I'm also on Twitter, and you can follow me at SH Farnsworth. So thanks for inviting me, Casey and Ebony. Thank you so much for having me with you today. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you. And can't wait to share this out with those who were not able to make it today. I know you're going to enjoy this, and please consider, using this for the fall. I know that everybody needs a little break. Take a break, during the summer, start going through the site, seeing if you can use it in your program to support your digital literacy rollout, digital media rollout for the fall, maybe introduce it to your PTO. They will love this as well. And just consider integrating this into your curriculum for the fall. You will not be disappointed. I tell you, you won't.
Thank you, Casey. Bye, everyone.
Alrighty. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.